Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of RE084, where I take old stories I've narrated and update them to modern audio standards. This particular story is called Human Spirits, written by Lostfol. The Verge glided slowly through the darkness of space, like a shark gliding through the shallows. Moving sublight speed, not even towards a destination anymore, it perpetually moving along in a linear journey. One cannot fault Captain Doriot, captain of the light in the dark, for being curious at the sight of such a ship drifting along its course. His ship was an exploration ship. Curiosity was his nature. Helm, hail that ship. It looks like an ancient hulk, but there are lights still on. Yes, sir, the helmsman Cowrit replied. They are an Nursel, a bipedal race, roughly 6 feet tall, with greyish skin and slender limbs. They also have large eyes, capable of excellent low-light vision. The entire race is psychic sensitive, but few are powerful enough to get more than strong feelings from others. On the side of the ship, they could barely make out the Verge. The words were obviously human. Captain, there is no response from the human vessel. We did a scan and no life signs appear to be present. Looking at the design, it looks to be an ancient ship. It's nothing like any of the documented ships humanity has used since we first made contact. The lights must be from stored solar energy. The captain does a search for the ship in the archives. The ship itself is apparently well-known in human space. It has been moving along in human space for centuries. He read the brief of its history with some surprise. Early in humanity's efforts to find new worlds, a company had launched the ship with a complement of colonists promising them a new world. The whole thing had been a con, not discovered until long after the crime was done. The colonists who signed on did not know the horrors that awaited them. The ship with a false destination, short on food, not having core shielding, and lacking plating for radiation resistance, was a death trap. The poor souls who had sold their life savings for the opportunity to reach a new world, in the end, met a grisly fate. Low on food and madness setting in, the ship became the stuff of horror movies. Betrayal, suffering, and death were what defines the Verge. Humans considering the ship one of ill omen, something to avoid at all costs. Humanity actually had warnings in the galactic archives to not approach or dock with the ship. There appear to have been many references comparing the Verge to the Flying Dutchman. Surprise and shock were what Captain Dorit felt. Humans were generally a practical race, known for irrational bravery at times. He was not expecting such a superstitious fear regarding a mundane-looking ship, even if it has a tragic past. He was also confused by the human terms ghost and haunting. Helm, set pace for this ship. Tell Ortica squad to prepare to board. Let us see why the humans fear this ship. Ortica squad is joking about their latest mission brief. The captain finds an ancient human derelict and wants them to explore it. A walk in the park, to say the least. Yet he still insists they should be careful. As 5 of them approach in the shuttle, Wozen notices something odd. It almost looks like there is movement in the lights of the ship. It appears such as creatures were running by windows. He never got a good look. Neither, Nosrill. I keep thinking I'm seeing something, unable to get positive identification. Neither Nosrill looks at the readouts on his display. Some strange electrical interferences were cropping up. Bang. The shuttle was up to the airlock of the Verge. The crew takes up positions by the door. Leader Nosrill let out a snort. Captain, this is Leader Nosrill. Ortica squad confirms scan for life forms. Leader Nosrill, we are scanning one and found none. Your mission is to board, explore the ship, and determine if salvageable or if any dangers are present. Human records indicate something bad happened on the ship. So I want all monitoring units checked and broadcasting prior to embarking. Check, Captain, turning towards his squad. You heard the man. All sound off and verify the helm has visual. Wozen sounding off, position 1, assigned crew quarters. Laza sounding off, position 2, assigned engine room. Nomel sounding off, position 3, assigned dining quarters. Okmal sounding off, position 4, flight to deck with Leader Nosrill. This is Helm. Read you all loud and clear. Your biomonitors and visual feedbacks are clear. You are free to proceed. With this, they engaged the airlock. Inside, most of the interior lights were out, some dangling from the ceiling. The team engages its lights and starts moving towards their designated targets. Back on the flight deck, The captain and the helmsman watched the squad's progress on the main view screen. Captain Dorrit began to feel some trepidation while watching the feeds. These video feeds should be stable, no further away than the ship was, but they kept flickering and weird audio was being picked up. The audio wasn't in standard galactic, but appeared to be some Earth dialect. He had the ship working on translating, but the disturbances was unnerving. Suddenly, Wozen's biometric heart readout increased dramatically. His camera faces into a room, light playing over the darkened interior. Before him, clearly visible, was a grouping of dolls staring at a small table with human dishware on it. Behind them, in a pale white dress, with jet black hair, staring at her feet, stood a young human female. She was humming some rhyme and gently swaying back and forth, appearing unaware of Wozen's presence. "Hello, this is Wozen of the Nasal. We thought the ship was empty. Who are you?" Wozen softly asks as he starts to approach the girl. The shock of having found someone inside despite the sensor scans gnawing at the back of his mind. As he walks closer, she stops humming. Suddenly, she looks up, showing glazed, empty eyes, half flesh missing from her face. She spoke with the same words the disturbance had been saying to the captain. Wozen jumps back away from the grisly apparition, tripping and briefly losing track of the girl. As he turns his camera and light back, she is gone. The doll, still around the table, all appear to be looking straight at him. Perhaps it is his imagination, but they seem to be smiling. Faint laughing could be heard. Wozen's heart rate is now dangerously high, as was seen on the biomonitors aboard the Light in the Dark. He begins cussing about what he'd just seen, fear edging his voice. All attention aboard the Light in the Dark has instantly pulled away from Wozen as the screaming of Lazar's feed pulls their full attention. Something is obviously wrong, but it is hard to tell what. Lazar appears to be running, his weapon apparently lost. His heart is racing and he keeps looking behind him. He's babbling, "To any of you who can hear me, there is life in the ship. Something's chasing me." Suddenly, reaching the engine room door, he opens it and jumps inside, slamming it shut behind him. His heart rate is in the danger zone. However, it's the massive spike of his radiation meter that captain and helmsman are watching in horror. Lazar seems completely unaware of this danger. He focuses on the figure standing before him, a human in a uniform. This human monitors a readout of some sort, ignoring Lazar. As Lazar approaches the human, disappears in a slight breeze. A breeze within the confines of a ship engine room shouldn't even be possible, Lazar thinks to himself. Lazar then notices his suit's radiation protection is breaking down, just after he has locked himself into a room with an active and unshielded nuclear reactor. The captain and helmsman watch Lazar's final moments in horror. His agonizing screams broadcast to his whole team as he begs for help. His skin slowly cooking off his flesh. He tries to make his way back to the door. It doesn't budge. Whether stuck or if Lazar's strength was failing him, they never truly knew. As he fell, the camera showed his face to the captain. Blisters were still forming, then popping and oozing their contents. His breathing getting worse and more shallow, before finally just stopping. Lazar's life signs flatline. He had passed. As the feed continues, they catch a glimpse of the same transparent crewman walking over and sitting down in a chair full of bones and rags, the remains of their ill-fated engineer. Lazar's final words and his screams for help broadcast over the radio, unnerving the rest of the Ortica squad. Their communication chatter would have dramatically increased were it not for the voices they now hear over their internal feed, none speaking in Galactic Standard. No Mill arrives in the dining room. The door is stuck. Despite his effort, he can't move it. He gives up, actually taking a step back. It was only then that the door slowly swings open, creaking ominously. Inside he sees piles of bones, many near the cooking area of the ship. A cleaver still stuck in a heavy wooden block near the cooking station. A wet dripping sound, and something dark appears to be on the large blade. Pans gently clanging, as though there is a breeze. Logically, he knows there isn't possible, but it was there. As he enters the room, his light passes across the rows of tables and chairs, meant for the occupants to sit and eat. Some were broken apart, looking almost like a defensive barrier, or a pen. Going deeper into the dining facility, approaching the kitchen, he can feel his skin begin to crawl. In the back of his mind, the psychic portion seems to be shivering in fear. A stove surprisingly appears to be still on, with a black spot. Steam appears to come out of the top of it, a slight burble still audible. He walks over and reaches for the lid, hand shaking. Opening the lid, he finds himself looking at a female face, her hair splayed in the water, eyes closed. Dropping the lid, Nomel took a step back. Then the eyes popped open, showing the glassy orbs, seeming to look right at him. Nomel screams as he begins to scramble, tripping, falling as he feels his back strike a wooden block. He looks up just in time for the camera to catch the cleaver's fall, appearing in slow motion, ending with a sickening thwack. Nomel's life signs instantly disappear from his biomonitor aboard the light in the dark. His speed lasts long enough to see that the stove is now off, the pot covered in rust. All signs of what they witnessed had shifted, looking like a derelict ship rather than a carnal house they just bore witness to. Captain Dorrit desperately tries to call his team back. Something is dangerously wrong with the ship. Panic fills his voice as he realizes they can't hear him. Every attempt is met with more of that strange human dialect, repeating those same sing-song words, and all he and the helmsman Currit can do is watch in horror as their team explores this frightful ship. Wozen is in a state of full panic. He can't get the crew quarters open. He can't send or receive any communications. He was coming in clear on the flight deck, but he cannot hear the captain begging him to withdraw. He mutters to himself, "This can't be real. This can't be real," over and over as he says it like a mantra. Laughing is still heard, but the saucer seems to be increasing. Both female and male laughs are adding to the din. The door won't budge to leave the crew quarters. As he walks amongst the bunks, seeing the bones of the ancient humans who had died here, the spectacle is made worse by the flashing of the lights in some rooms. He occasionally catches glimpses of movement or a wisp of what looks like a black cloud. The sing-song voices continue in the distance, calling him back towards one of the rooms. He makes his way towards it. Lockers begin to rattle. Outside of the door, a rubber ball rolls up to his feet. Picking it up, Wozen begins to realize how alone and truly frightened he is. He has seen combat, even against humans, but he's never known terror like this. It was almost like something was feeding off his fear. Bracing himself, he looks into the room. He sees the same girl with the pale dress and dark hair. She is holding something. It appears to be a doll. Looking at him, she waits as he takes a step towards her, pausing in the entryway. The captain lets out a most undignified scream as the door suddenly slams shut on the vidscreen, a loud squish of Wozen's body and environmental suit breaking as blood splatters the camera. Before the feed dies, light in the dark is briefly shown the crushed remains of another team member, gore sliding down towards the floor. With even greater desperation, Captain grabs the communication unit and starts trying to get a hold of Okmal and Nosrill. He can feel warm tears starting to come from his eyes as only the human sing-song dialect answers him. Helplessly watching their feeds, the two of them are almost at flight deck. Captain Dorrit forces himself to watch. His orders sent these Nazrill there. His duty would be to be able to report what happens. Sickeningly, the two of them now show as the only life signs upon the ship. Walking up to the flight deck, they are visible through their cameras on their suits to the light in the dark. They open the door and shine their lights in. The grinning skulls of the flight crew still in their posts. Holes appear to be in the back of their seats, stare blankly back at them. Moving forward, both turn with a start as the door slams shut behind them, right after Okmal crosses its threshold. At this point, helmsman Carrot is trying to calm his own heart. The crying of the captain is not helping him in the least. As the door slams shut, lighting floods the flight deck. Humans on the flight deck in red uniforms can be seen working at their terminals. They appear to be moving, even though the damage to their backs can be clearly seen. They appear to be talking, but all that can be heard is the dripping of the blood from their damaged bodies and the insistent sing-song voice. Behind them stands the human captain, a stern look upon his face. Again, he utters that phrase the captain and helmsman had been hearing since sending their team over, each time getting louder and louder over the communications devices throughout the ship. Okmal stares for a minute. Okmal quietly, trance-like, says, "All who board are part of the crew." Leader Nosrill stands near the view screen on the deck, looking out into space beyond, unaware Okmal is no longer with him. Okmal's voice almost returned to normal as he continues, Captain Durrett, these humans are long since dead, but their pain and anger are so great their spirits are burned into our reality. They can't pass. This is impossible. These spirits exist without vessels. No, the ship is their vessel. I can feel their pain, their hunger. Help me. He begins to cry, slowly drawing and raising his rifle, visibly struggling in a losing battle of control. He points it at the back of the leader Nosral's head, and with a single retort, Nosral's life signs go flat. His camera shows Okmal almost accusingly as it falls to the ground. Okmal is crying now. He is sobbing, No, please, no. As slowly he kneels and points his rifle at himself. With another retort, his life signs stop. As Okmal's lives end, the scene before him goes back to the dock command deck, where Okmal is eternally staring at the bones of a man in his uniform, the top of his head missing, and pistol still sitting on the flight deck floor where it appears to have fallen ages ago. The computer chimes in that is finally translated the human phrase. Welcome aboard the Verge. You may not leave. Captain Durrett falls into his chair. He knows he must warn others, prevent them from ever approaching the human ghost ship. The dangers humans truly posed he had never dreamed, eventually continuing on, even after death. As he recovers, one question repeats over and over in his mind. How does one explain a ghost ship? For a minute he gets excited. He has the recordings. Turning to the helmsman, he didn't get to utter a word. The helmsman looked the captain in the eye and said, Captain, the recordings are all corrupt. It's all static and strange noises. Sleep never came easy for the captain again from that day. He kept hearing that sing-song human phrase and seeing the human captain welcoming more to his ship. End of story. I'd quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Bushmaster 177, Henry the Red, Caspar Arnholtz, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Elijah Silvercross, Dragzoon WRE, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.